Hello and welcome back to another episode of Healing Our Community with Dr. Ray and Jean. Hi, I am Dr. Ray.
And I'm Jean.
And this podcast was designed to create conversations about mental health and mental health specifically as it applies to Delta County and the Western Slope. We are founders of KBH Center, which is located in Delta. And today we are talking about the secret to likability. And this is based off of an article and a study that was done, actually. And the study was done in 2024, I believe. This is a study published in the British Journal of Social Psychology. And as we talk about this, I really want to kind of think about the impact of COVID, too, because this is 2024, right? But it was also covered, the study was covered in an article by Vice. I guess Vice magazine or something like that. Anyway, the researchers, they tracked 22 behavioral cues across two group experiments. We're getting really clinical now, but we just want to kind of talk a little bit about that. But what they were talking about, what they were trying to find out and study was popularity, likability, right? And they were breaking down the myth of inherent charisma. So someone who's got charisma within themselves inherently.
Yeah, the reason we thought about talking about this topic is because all the kids went back to school, right?
Yeah.
They're in new classrooms, they're meeting new people, the parents are meeting new parents. And like, how do we navigate that stuff? How do we walk into a room and find our people and really help ourselves be in a position to engage with people in a way that's positive for them and has a meaning in their life?
Yeah, and you know, before we get into the results of the study here, I just want to remind all of you this is live every Wednesday at 12:15. If you are watching on our Facebook page, KBH Center, or on our YouTube channel, KBH Center, you can just put in the comments any questions or comments that you want. And also, if you wanted to see any past episodes, you can go to our website, kbhcenter.org, and you can see any of our past episodes. So to jump back into this topic of likability, the study found that people who are liked aren't naturally funnier, smarter, or even better looking.
Yeah.
Which that's a very important one because
it really is.
I was part of a study in college about likability of political candidates. And one of the things it found was that the attractability of the candidate, meaning like physical attraction,
right,
it lended to more votes.
Right. And being taller, I think, too.
Yeah, and being taller as well, right. So this study completely contradicts it.
Well, I think there's a difference between perceiving someone that you don't know through media or something versus being in the room with someone, right? Because probably if you're on your phone and you're looking for, I don't know, I never did a dating app, but you're probably looking for someone who's attractive.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean when you're in the room with them, it's the same thing.
Yeah, and so it's saying that we think that people are liked because they're funnier, smarter, or better looking, but what it's actually showing, and the study showed, is that likability is driven by assertiveness and sociability, right? So how comfortable someone is in engaging with other people, and also how they carry themselves in a physical social space.
It's interesting, the word assertiveness, because we've talked about that a lot. And do they mean assertiveness like I'm going to set appropriate boundaries, or do they mean assertiveness like I'm going to reach out, I'm going to make the first move, I'm going to engage with you, I'm going to see how you're doing?
Yeah, I think what they're talking about is like how you carry yourself, right? So like having your posture and open gestures and steady eye contact. So the body language and the posture is what you are communicating in an assertive way. And
Right.
It communicates this confidence.
I'm going to try this. Or,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The study did talk about shrinking versus expanding,
Yeah.
right? So that when you feel anxious or insecure, we make ourselves small, right? We slouch, we avoid eye contact. But then when we feel confident in ourselves, that's when we expand. That's when we are, we fill the space, the social space, with our energy, our tone, our pace, our volume, and posture.
I hear people talk about this a lot, that they're sitting at home and they're saying, like, why doesn't someone call me? Why doesn't someone invite me? Why
Yeah.
does someone not ask me how I'm doing? And we have zero control over that. And I can guarantee you the person you're hoping does that for you is sitting in their house going, why don't they call me? Why don't they? And recently I've been encouraging one of my clients to do that. And she was pretty isolated. She's older. Her spouse has passed away. And she started doing that. And guess what people said?
Well,
They said yes.
Thank you. Yes. Thank
They
you
said
for
yes.
calling.
That sounds great. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling. And it's harder. It's harder to be the one to dial. Is it dialing anymore?
No.
Whatever. But you're picking up the phone and
Pushing
reaching
buttons.
out. But if you've ever had the experience where someone did that to you, maybe even someone you haven't talked with in 10 years, it's always like, huh, that's awesome. Someone thought about me. But we don't have control over making it happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
We do have control over reaching out and making it happen for others.
For sure. And that's part of that exuding or expanding your presence in a social sense and your confidence and assertiveness. There was another study by Willis and Todorov who showed that our brain judges trustworthiness in 100 milliseconds. And then it also judges likability in 500 milliseconds. So people judge your presence before you even say anything, before anything comes out of your mouth.
That's very interesting, because that is, like, to me, that's almost on a chemical level.
Yeah.
Like, that's so fast that before you have an ability to even smile or speak or
Well,
anything.
I think smiling has something to do with them, because it's that.
Well, 500
physical presence.
milliseconds is how long?
I think
Less
it
than a
just-
second,
I think
right?
it just happened. So that was
Is
really
that
quick.
500 milliseconds? Is that a second? That's less than a second, right? Half a second?
Yeah, it's thousandths
Yeah.
of a second.
Yeah, that's really fast.
Yeah.
And so, when you think about before you walk into a room, how do you feel? If you feel anxious, if you feel insecure, if you feel happy, if you feel like excited about going and meeting people. And a lot of times, and Ray just did this before we started the podcast, we were sitting here and he goes, because it's like when you smile, when you get that going, you exude that energy as opposed to hi. Right?
Yeah, right. Imagine doing a podcast.
So you have more control before you're in the room with the person.
An emo podcast or something.
Or an angry podcast.
Yeah, so it's really about that, that impression. And, as the study has shown, people are having an immediate impression before you even say anything.
Which is difficult to change, even though you did nothing to earn it.
Well, it exudes, or what you exude is what's going on inside, right? So if you don't have confidence about yourself, then it's not going to come out. If you have insecurity and anxiety within yourself, and self-doubt, that is what's going to be presented.
Yeah, and I would say maybe that 500 millisecond isn't very accurate, because I think people who are very manipulative are really good at the 500 millisecond. They're good right off the bat with flattery and with positivity, and then it turns.
Well, I think you have to back it up. It has to be
Right,
sincere.
which means you can also flip it in the other direction.
Yeah, you can't be acting.
Right. Right.
And I think people genuinely, just like they get an impression without what you say, people can pick up on whether you're being genuine or not.
Yeah, and if you think about what they're saying, it's not about attractiveness or being funny. because those kind of things are attention seeking behaviors.
Yeah.
One upping, those are seeking behaviors versus hi, how are you, and reaching out and caring about the other person are attention giving behaviors.
Yeah, I mean that actually kind of connects to a past episode that we did about attachment styles,
Right.
right? And that if you're seeking external approval, that is going to come across.
Yes.
Right? And people are not going to see that as natural, genuine confidence,
Right.
About who you are. They're going to feel the ickiness, coming off of you.
And that's an interesting thing. If you are a kind of person that goes into a social situation and maybe you're a little anxious, and when people are anxious, they do funny things like talk way more than they should, overshare. And you can see that maybe the rest of the people are kind of, their eyes are glazing over, they're pulling back from you. And you might make a mental note like, wait a second, maybe I should ask them about themselves.
Yeah.
And try to engage them in me caring about them as opposed to me trying to get something from them.
It makes me think of the book How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people read, this is a very old book,
Yes.
right? It's not Dale Carnegie, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, the book, a lot of people think that if they read the book, they're going to be able to manipulate people. That's
Right.
not the purpose of the book. The book
Right.
is really about internal review, like trying to figure out, what's going on the inside here. How can I, connect with people in a way that I am going to have that presence that we're talking about and get the likability.
It's interesting. We were just in Denver over the weekend, and I was like, oh yeah, I have to remember I'm not supposed to look at people and smile at them.
What do you mean?
I'm not, when I'm walking down the street, I'm not supposed to engage them. And everyone, everyone's like, and we used to live in the Chicago area where that was actually pretty normal. But living here in the Delta County, it is not normal. It is normal to wave if you pass someone by in the car or greet them on the street or whatever it is, which actually reduces stress. So you're acknowledging the other person, which means so that's what the wave means. It means I see you and you're safe because I'm paying attention and I'm not going to hit you. I didn't know that. I was reading an article on that when you wave to someone when you're driving, and I would say the same thing when you're walking down the street. You're acknowledging that the other person's there and that you're safe, as opposed to I don't know you, you scare me, because that's what it felt like in Denver to me.
That's what it feels like in all cities, really.
Right.
Whenever we visit a city. So, what, I guess we should talk about, like, what can you do, to change your presence, to change your assertiveness. And I think one thing we're talking about here and dancing around is you've got to check in with yourself.
Yep.
You've got to figure out, before you go out in public, just like who you are as a person. And, the word that I use, for myself is humility, humbleness, right? Am I coming from a place of humbleness, right? Or is it disingenuine, right?
As opposed to coming from a place of how can I get the best?
Yeah.
What can I get out of this?
What can I get out of
How
it?
can I dominate
Yeah.
the conversation or other people? How can I get them to see how great I am? Those are all huge turnoffs.
We used to do a lot of networking in Chicago, and one of the things that was very apparent was, people who genuinely wanted to know about you and get to know you versus people who wanted to get your business.
Right.
Right? And so when we would go into a social networking event, you could totally pick it out. The people who would come up and be like, here's my business card, what do you do?
This is what I do.
This is what I do. Versus people who are just wanting to get to know you as a person,
Right.
because it's that personal connection that is really going to dictate whether they're going to want to do business with you or not. And so that assertiveness, or I would like to say genuineness, really, comes across.
Yeah.
And it's something that you want to engage more with.
It's interesting. I think about, and this is like probably high school days, about some of my friends, girlfriends, who would spend hours getting ready for school. Hours. And they had 2 hours to get their makeup and their hair done and everything. And I think that just exudes like low self-esteem. Like, I'm so worried about what other people think. I can't leave the house unless everything is perfect.
Right.
And people pick up on that, not as that, wow, look at them, they're so perfect, or wow, look at them, look at that car they drive, but like, oh, what are they trying to prove?
Yeah. So I guess the key phrase is be present, like with yourself, and not perfect.
Yeah. And present also of what do I have to offer?
Yeah. Yeah.
How can I make their life better?
Not. I like that. That's a good rephrase, because it's kind of like, how can I make other people feel comfortable? How can I, learn more about them, versus do they like me?
Right.
Right. I'm worried about other people's impression. I'm worried about what they think about me. The shift in that is from a place of anxiety and self-consciousness to a grounded presence. A presence that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm being genuine, and I genuinely want to know about you.
And the interesting thing is, when we do that, when we actively engage with someone else in a positive manner, it feels good for both people, and it improves our immune system.
Yeah.
And when we interact with someone in a way that feels like, oh, I feel like I'm in a battle, it actually lowers our immune system, and both people feel bad. So this is a really important thing, is that it's either everyone wins or nobody wins. That's how it works.
For sure. For sure. So I really like this topic, because I think it obviously it pertains, to everyone. And when we talk about mental
Except
health,
for those people we talked about last week that don't leave their house and only deal with AI 2 weeks ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago. Right.
But if you are a social being and you interact with other people,
Well, those people, they just need to have their persona on
Yeah.
for the camera, and
Yeah.
then they turn it off, right? But this is kind of a good example. I said, I like this topic. It's a good example about the breadth, what's the wide breadth of mental health topics, right? Because mental health is not just about severe mental health or mental illness.
Right.
It is about there is a wide spectrum of things that we encounter.
micro health.
What?
Like looking at someone and smiling is good for your mental health, but it's a little tiny act as opposed to some grand act like
Well, I mean,
changing your
as the
nutrition
study's
or
showing,
something.
it is much bigger
Yeah.
than we think, right? It's much, our presence and our persona is much bigger than the things that we say, right? So, I want to thank you so much for joining us on our podcast today. Again, if you have any topic suggestions or comments or questions, please let us know. You can check out our website, kbhcenter.org. And remember that this is a podcast, a live podcast every Wednesday at 12:15. Like and subscribe, because then you'll get notifications of when it's airing, right? And if you want to catch any past episodes, you can go on our website, kbhcenter.org. Gene, we can't really come up with real solutions, to mental health issues without having real conversations. And so let's keep talking, Delta County.